Hey, I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in the game Unconscious Mind, which is a game about therapy, essentially. Therapy and Sigmund Freud's assistance, helping patients overcome their fears and what limits them and just going through the process of therapy. Really interesting theme of the game. The theme is well interwoven into every aspect of the game. It is a fairly heavy game with a lot of mechanisms, and it took us around 4 hours to play the first 3-hour game for two of us. One person, my friend Chance, was being very kind to teach us how to play this game. He also has a great video about how to play this game that I'll link in this video below. So there are so many mechanisms in this game. There are two that I want to highlight. One is this one right here. So this is what a patient, one of the patients that can appear in Unconscious Mind. When you have a patient, when you gain a patient, you gain a few different things all at once. One of the things that you gain is this plastic card with an ink blot over it and a benefit and an addition to the cost. And you put that card, this clear card, on top of the patient card. And this represents, there's a moment in the game that happens when you're treating this patient. There's a lot to talk about here, but when you're treating this patient, that you get to remove this card. I think it's called catharsis in this game. So you're curing, you have a breakthrough with this patient. They aren't cured. They're still a work in progress, as we all are as people, but they've had a moment of catharsis, and you get to remove this card. And when that happens, you get to gain this benefit. So this is gain 2 points, upgrade one of your resources. And you can see this red slash down here. This red slash is covering up this patient's ongoing or endgame benefit. And when you remove this card, even if you later do not fully cure this patient, this ability is still there for the endgame or as an ongoing basis. So you've broken through enough that you get to benefit from this ongoing benefit. So I really like the use of this clear card in this case, where there are instant benefits. It's revealing an ongoing benefit beneath it. There's an artistic element that is just there for art, but it is nice. And there's a cost to it as well. This adds to the total cost to cure the patient that is removed once you remove this clear card. There are other elements to curing as well that have to do with these dreams that you're processing, but I really like this use of a clear plastic card in the game to represent progress. Your progress with this patient, and that there is a benefit even if you don't fully cure the patient later. That's one of the mechanisms. Let me set up the other mechanism, which is kind of the core mechanism of the game, but I think it's a really clever worker placement system. Here we go with that other one. So there are two boards in the game. This board is a lot, but this board I thought was really, really cleverly designed. This is the core worker placement board in the game. So it represents Freud and his assistants, represented by the players, sitting around a table, just kind of learning from each other, talking, discussing, learning from each other, sharing ideas. And that's why your workers in this game are speech bubbles. So you place a speech bubble on your turn. If you'd like to place a worker speech bubble, you place it on this board, on one of these empty slots, pointing at one of the benefits. So you can see there are some spaces in here where you can point at one of 4 different benefits, a lot of different options there. And then along the edges, you have more limited options as to where you can place them. These slots are taken. Once you place the token there, it is taken. Another player or yourself cannot take that action again until they're cleared off during a rest turn. And so there are multiple ways, but the key here is that I like that there are multiple ways to access the same benefit. Just because I have gained this benefit does not mean that you can't gain that benefit. You just have to place your token in a different place. And the place where you place your token, or the exact position, corresponds to these rows. You can see these rows. I don't know if you can see them, but on the rows, there are benefits related to this ink blot thing that you'll move around on your player board. It's a whole other mechanism. I won't go into it, but it is a different mechanism. And how far you move that ink blot is information that you will need to consider when you're taking your turn for the various benefits that you can gain. So you might want to gain this benefit by only moving the ink blot once, or you might want to gain it by moving it twice. That's dependent on your individual player mat. But yeah, I really like this mechanism. Oh, and one other element of this mechanism is that you can actually place, if you want, 2 of your speech bubble workers on the same action or the same exact place on the same turn to gain a benefit twice. It means that you'll accelerate the rate at which you will have to take a rest turn later, and you don't get quite as much of a benefit on that rest turn, but it does feel really good to take an action twice just because you want it right now and because it's the only time that you think you might be able to gain it. You can place 2 of those tokens at the same time. So I think that's a great decision space within the worker placement decision that you're making on this board. So a really cool worker placement grid mechanism here. I'd love to see this, or I'd love to hear examples of this in other games if you can think of other games that have this mechanism. So I'd love to hear any examples you have of clear plastic cards that represent, or actually it doesn't need to be clear plastic cards, but unique components that represent progress in games. There are some other clear plastic card games that do this. And also, if you can think of any other grid-based worker placement games, I think that's a neat way to offer multiple ways to access the same benefit, but with additional decision spaces in terms of the exact row in which you're placing your worker. Those are my favorite mechanisms in Unconscious Mind. I'd love to hear your thoughts about those or your other favorite mechanisms in the game in the comments below. Thanks.